Thanks, everybody. Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Ricky Camilleri. Our next guests have known each other since at least the mid-90s, I think, maybe more. Back then, Paula Pell was one of the most beloved writers on SNL, and Anna Gasteyer, one of the most beloved performers. Now they're teaming up with some of their other SNL pals like Rachel Dratch, Maya Rudolph, Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, who is making her directorial debut with this film, Wine Country. Let's take a look.
I want to sing a little ditty for my sweet, very short friend Rebecca, who is turning 22 tomorrow. Wink, wink. I'm going to give you something you ain't never had before.
Yes.
Close your eyes.
Oh!
Oh, cool.
It's an amazing day in Wine Country.
When was the last time we were all together?
I just want this to feel like a regular vacation. And somewhere in there, I'll just slide into 50. To Rebecca! Age is just a number. What would you say your soul's age is?
18. Old enough to drink and bone. Don't have my own car yet, but I have a bike.
I made itineraries of everything we're gonna do minute by minute on the trip. We have lavender popping corn.
That's not enough.
We're gonna keep this party going!
What is that?
Molly. I did Molly in college, but she went back to her boyfriend.
Celebrating with a girls' weekend, huh? Just remember, guys, whatever gets said, it's probably what the person has always felt, and the alcohol just let it out. This weekend is a mess.
Something bit me! Oh my God, I'm gonna die!
I can't even plan a fun birthday trip.
If you were just to let go, everything will just fall into place.
Will it fall into place?
Do you think throwing the itineraries out the window was on the itinerary? Guess we'll never know.
If we can't get through a weekend together, then I'm completely lost.
Just get to the bush and you're fine from there!
That's what she said.
These women I have known for 20 plus years. And yeah, sometimes I want to tell this one to fuck off.
You want me to fuck off?
That's what intimacy looks like.
This one's good. What's it called again?
White wine.
Freaking love it.
Everybody, please welcome two of the funniest people in the world, Anna Gasteyer and Paula Pell. Let's hear it.
Hi, friends.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for
Congratulations on
having us.
Wine Country and
Thank you.
somebody letting all of you guys get together and have a good time and make a movie.
Pay us to hang.
I know.
Yeah, is that what it sort of felt like?
Yes. It felt like a paid vacation.
Yeah. It was such a great script already because it was written by someone who really knows us. So we felt like even when we were doing the actual scenes, we were being ourselves.
So was it written specifically with you in mind?
Well, so we are a group of friends, everybody in this movie together, and we get together for big milestone birthdays and sometimes just getaway trips together. We took a trip to Wine Country for Rachel Dratch's 50th, and again last year for mine, we went to Palm Springs. So we try to do these kind of big marquee birthdays and things like that.
Like this exact crew?
This
With the
exact
exception
crew.
of Jason Schwartzman.
This not Jason Schwartzman, exactly. And so
And I'm not 50 yet, so we haven't gone on mine.
so in 15 years we'll do yours. We're looking forward
We
to it.
passed mine already. We're going to do mine retroactive.
We're doing a retroactive, yeah. Anyway, so that was sort of the basis for it. It's literally just a bunch of women who do travel together, who are friends and colleagues. And Amy is a smart businesswoman and an excellent director, and thought to herself this would make a great movie, and pulled it together. Emily Spivey, who is in the movie, wrote the script with another former SNL writer, Liz Kukowski, and many, I wouldn't say it's like an autobiographical tale, but it is, many of the sort of tent poles of the movie are things that we did together. We did have a not very effective tarot card reading.
Yep, a very cranky tarot card reader.
Yes.
I've had those as well. It's a horrific experience.
Yes,
Very
it's
expensive and
devastating.
cranky.
Very expensive and very cranky.
Which is not a good combo.
A doomsday speaker.
Yeah.
And we had, a number of things happened similarly, actually.
Now, obviously with a movie like this, there has to be drama and there has to be a turn, and the drama comes from the characters' insecurities about each other that have developed over the years. How much of that, I'm sure it's not specifically autobiographical, that doesn't happen that often, but I wonder if it does come from personal conversations and it's been sort of extrapolated and exaggerated a little bit for drama.
Yeah, I mean, it's heightened for the movie. When we went on these actual trips, we didn't storm off from each other screaming or anything like that. But I think the sense of the sort of conflicts in the movie are things that we've all among each other, not specifically to our characters in it, but we've all had with each other sometimes, or not even with each other, but just in life. It's like
I think historical
things you
friendships
can
have
relate
history.
to.
Yeah, obviously.
It's like the
historical friendships.
conflict that could be there if you weren't adults and didn't know how to address it pretty
Yes.
quickly.
Yeah,
If
I
we
will-
weren't all in deep therapy.
Yeah.
And got it all out there.
And we are people who went through a very intense workplace together and came up through, the comedy ranks, which is its own strange minefield. So in many ways, I actually think that our friendship is a place of solace and relief for us, probably more so than would be interesting to show on camera. So for us, like the getaways tend to be not particularly conflict filled. They tend to be full of a lot of insane laughter and bits and jokes. And everyone's worked so hard to juggle their extraordinarily busy careers and families to get there that we tend to have a much better time than a conflicted time. But that would be a very boring movie.
Yeah. It would be the kind of movie they play like in a hospital just to calm people when they're waiting to find out about a surgery outcome or something.
A hospice or some kind of
Because
like
we do a lot of like deep, close talking to each
Yeah.
other in hot tubs, or just really sharing it, unpacking it big time.
It's a lot of
That
unpacking.
sounds
There's not a lot of like
It's
I said,
fantastic.
storming off and flipping tables
No,
and stuff like that.
it's not our jam.
That's wine country too.
Yeah.
Have you ever brought Molly to the party?
No, I have never brought Molly to the party. I have no idea where that came from, except
No.
to create something sort of
We're all
interesting.
kind of drug chicken shits, so it was
Yeah.
fun to do the scene where we were all talking about doing Molly, and then also saying it might mix with our Farxiga and all our
Yeah.
other pharmaceuticals.
Gaviscon.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
our GERD.
No, we
a
do
sexy word.
we do day drink together, but that's about it. We're pretty boring.
Yeah, I love that that the characters didn't take Molly in the movie, because I feel like there is a subversion of the trope in the movies like this, where someone
Yes.
smokes weed, or the group smokes weed, or takes
Yes.
Molly, and they'll have this amazing time. Where it's brought up and then it's immediately undercut.
I think that was tactical. I think
Yes.
very much on Amy's part as a director and on the part of the writers. I think that the feeling was, look, this is a group of women who can get really crazy together, but I think it was very important to Amy, and I don't want to put words in her mouth, that this is a movie about female friendship. And, when you characterize the movie, say my husband at one point was like, so is it like, the all-female hangover? I think women do get away in different ways than men do. I think that it's really not about escaping through a giant blackout that we can't remember. It's more about going inward and connecting and laughing really hard and finding ourselves. Because I do think women spend so much of their time giving to others and sort of taking care of the world around them, that for them it's a total release just to think about themselves for a minute. Not to be too earnest.
Men,
I did actually buy all those high-end vibrators for
She did.
everyone in the real trip.
Yes, she did.
At the Hustler store in LA before I flew there, and I got such expensive ones because I hadn't seen these girls in a long time.
She
and I
really went
wanted
the
to
extra
be a
mile.
Good
But we all
gifter.
did avoid her in TSA when we were going through the airport because we did not want to be identified with her vibrating
No,
suitcase.
I got the employee discount at the Hustler store because the girl felt so bad because she was like, "This is really going to be expensive." She's like, "I think I'm going to just give you my employee discount." And I'm like, "All right, does that put me on a registry of any kind?"
It's really special. Your loyalty program? You
Yeah.
could have really gotten something special.
You punch the
I was gonna
card.
say, give a
Yeah.
hustler
Little dick.
punch
You could have
card.
had custom condoms made.
10th dildo free.
You get a complimentary butt plug.
Hi, Mom.
Yeah, that's right. I said I wouldn't embarrass you.
Hi, Mom.
So I'm curious to go back in time, what was it like for all of you, because all of you are at SNL around the same time as writers and as performers.
Yes.
What was SNL like at that time for this group of women?
Well, when I came to the show in Paula a turnover in the cast in 1995, and when I joined the cast in 1996, there were 3 female cast members and there were 3 female writers, and there were a whole lot of men. We were very outnumbered. I wouldn't say we spent a whole lot of time thinking about being outnumbered. We just put on our blinders and did our work. That changed over the time that we were there. By the time I left, Tina Fey was head writer and a performer on the show. There were considerably more women on the show. There were considerably more writers, I think, 3 or 4 now.
Yeah, I think it has always continued to rise and be more diverse in terms of gender and everything else. Yeah.
Sexual orientation, everything.
Yeah, and I think that very first, I know in 95 when I came, the very first feeling was that we were all new together. So it was a rare time because I don't know if I would have ever made it there if I would have come later and just been like 1 or 2 of the new people. Like, we were all new. So we all felt like we kind of went away to grad school or college where everyone's like, hey, do you know where I should go get this? Or do you find any apartments? Like, everyone was all new.
Even in the writer's room?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
almost everyone. I mean, maybe 2 or 3 writers were still there. Very few people from before. So when we all got to know each other, we kind of had a low bar because we just didn't know what it was because we had never done it. So we were kind of like, we'll just do our thing. That they picked us because they thought we were funny. Mm-hmm. We'll just do our thing. And then the funny just kind of rose. And these women came in and just killed it in the 90s to where, it wasn't even a matter of like, women versus men or anything of who's getting on, because there was just always a huge presence with these women because they were so freaking funny.
Who were the 3? You said 3 women cast members.
It was Molly Shannon, myself, and Sherry O'Terry when I first came.
Amazing.
And then Maya joined the cast a couple of years later. Or was Rachel first? Rachel and Maya joined in the late 90s, early 2000s, I would say.
Yeah, I'm not
Me and
sure.
Tina were like early 2000s, right?
Tina was on the air by 98, I think.
Oh, 98.
All I know is I was there before they came and I was there after they came.
And Paula did. She stayed the course. She took really, great. She was a storied and celebrated writer on the show. I mean, Paula wrote Every Bobby and Marty, the middle school music teachers with me and Will Ferrell. She wrote, and I mean, literally, I think I wrote 70% of my material with Paula. She wrote Debbie Downer. She wrote Gilly. She wrote many, many famous sketches on the show, the cheerleaders.
What is it like? Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. With Debbie Downer, when eventually do you realize after the first time it's done that you are writing it for people to break?
We never thought of it that way because that first one that happened. Like, there's certain actors on that show that would come on and if it was a combo. Like Jimmy and Horatio make each other laugh harder than anything you've ever seen. So when they would do a sketch together where they were playing like little Italian guys like balancing some plates or something, that it's going to end up being just a total shit show of them cracking up. But with Debbie Downer, we really did not expect. And because Rachel doesn't break as easy, like she doesn't break that much in sketches. So when she lost it in that sketch,
all over,
it just, everyone was done, and they were wiping their eyes with the waffles and everything. But that was the very first one that was on. And so we didn't ever write it.
Oh, that was the first one?
Yes,
the one with
that
the
was the first one. And we were just watching it backstage going, what is happening? Like, we could not stop. We couldn't breathe. We were laughing so hard. But it was very pure. And we didn't want to just write it for that purpose, because what we were also hearing a lot after it was on was that people were going, oh my God, we have a woman at our office that's Debbie Downer. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, we know a Debbie Downer. Oh my God, my mom is a Debbie Downer.
That is one of those characters that's just taken over in culture. People talk. My kids refer to people as Debbie Downers.
Yes.
It's just an expression people use now.
That is,
I refer to myself as a Debbie Downer
always
often.
The kind of dream stuff you would try to figure out at SNL is the simplest take of something that is relatable, that people go, oh my God, that character is this person I know.
And sometimes it's just an accident. You tap into it.
Yeah, and I think Anna was so brilliant at play. I always used to call it joyful losers, is that I loved writing joyful losers. I was a joyful loser and am one.
Yeah,
same. And so nerd, just total nerd. And in my 13-year-old journal, I was like, I shall never forget this day. I used to say shall a lot. I don't know what the hell that came from. But Anna would create these characters that were just...
I really want to know what the day was that you...
it was me being confirmed. Confirmation.
Beautiful.
And I said, I was confirmed today. Bishop Vanish was a lovely man. I shall never forget this day. And then I would say, Rocky
senior
is a
citizen.
foxy Italian, and I'm proud to be one. Like, I was, like, kind of horny and kind of, like, I was just a weird
And
combination.
you had a gift. You had the gift of the pen.
I did.
Back then.
I did.
I found an entry in my 7th grade journal that was like, we had a in-service day today. I guess the teachers. So I got to spend the day at home. Was going to go to the movies, but I defrosted the freezer instead.
I used to end my journal entries. I'd always try to change it, where I'd go, well, I'm going to pounce on the Posturepedic.
No.
Or I'd go, I'm going to, like,
The alliteration.
cut some Z's. I always had to say, like, a different.
I gotta cut some Z's, guys.
So,
It was like a new way of saying goodnight to
Yeah.
the journal every
Yeah.
night.
but Anna
Just
would.
remembered Sarah Blazin. We wrote this sketch together at the end of my tenure at SNL that was not a successful sketch. So if you don't...
Those are sometimes the ones you
It's
really
most of
laugh
the things
about
that we
later,
wrote. Yeah,
is how
she
bad
she was an old Broadway dame that they would wheel in when if like Leslie Uggams was hit by a car, they would bring her in just to at last minute, and she was very high maintenance and always had injuries and never really wanted to work too hard. Do you remember that? And we I just remember we wrote one. It was literally my last show, Winona Ryder, and it was cut at Dress. And she was teaching old comedy tricks. And I remember you said, double ping pong, who cut the queso?
Who cut the queso?
That you would land it. Double ping pong.
We'd always sing the song of, you gotta leave them with a joke, leave them with a laugh, because we'd be
Leave
like
'em
leaving
with
the room.
a zinger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anna, when we used to write Bobby and Marty, you know, I don't know who's familiar with, probably most of you are familiar with those music teachers, but you're all pretty young, so I don't know. But they were just very losery music teachers that would do these duets as a married couple. And
Very earnest.
And I think we're pretty sure at home when they would have sex, they did a lot of intense eye contact and they were on a papasan chair. They were super crunchy. But
Does they perform at like proms or town halls?
Yeah.
Or
yeah,
like,
they would always perform somewhere like the mall or
Yeah.
some weird place, and it was always obvious by how they were reacting that the audience was just like this, just like
A solid,
solid.
a lot of back wall middle
so,
fingers.
You know, they would just be talking about something and go, you know, I really don't appreciate name calling, and it was such a fun game to write. We would just cry because to not see those people, but to just have their characters, which were so beautifully defined, just looking out and imagining, you know, Will Ferrell's dead face or her dead face going like, you know, there are other fingers you could, you know, you could just do a thumbs up and it would be part of the solution.
I do read American Sign Language, and I don't appreciate your calling my wife a J-hole.
A J-hole. I remember one that we particularly busted a gut at was that to whoever put hot nacho cheese in my husband's shoe, it's a
Orthotic.
very expensive orthotic. And then he goes, I can no longer safely take any more Tylenol because he burned his foot so bad. But we would laugh writing that sketch so hard because we knew the game. You know, when you have a sketch at SNL, a recurring character, which I wrote a lot of,
which don't exist that much
they don't
anymore on
exist
the show.
in comedy anymore as much. It's kind of like more personalities and different concepts, conceptual things. But when we did these characters, it was just, you knew when you sat down to write it, what you were going to do. Like with Debbie Downer, you know the game. Right. So you just say, what is the setting this week? And you could just plug in. And then the fun was to just pitch out, throw out a whole bunch of Debbie Downerisms, or with Bobby and Marty, how they get abused by the crowd. And it was so fun. But when you do sketches there, you do a few sketches a night on writing night that you're going to put in the read through. So everyone's kind of like, hey, when do you want to do that sketch? Do you want to write that thing about the hats? Yeah, let's do that thing. Okay, what time? Well, we're doing Bobby and Marty first. And we would go into Bobby and Marty and we would just not want to leave
would never
because
come
we
out.
were laughing so hard. So we would make everyone so mad because they'd come by and just be like,
All
you
night
know,
long.
knocking.
4
and,
a.m.
Hey, are
guys
you
almost,
anything? And we're just like, oh,
Sorry, we're
we're
just
doing the
getting going.
medley now. We're
Yeah,
doing the
it's
music
taking a long
medley.
time.
And we'd just be in there just making it last because it was so fun.
We
to write.
many Wednesday mornings, which is when the read through day is. That your deadline is 8 o'clock. There were many 8:30 a.m.s with Egg McMuffins. We would have to seal it with an Egg McMuffin at the end
Because there was a
we would
musical
have been
medley
writing
at the end of each
for
one,
12
so that
solid
takes a long
hours.
time too.
And
but-
it's like writing a paper. Like the later you get, the return on investment gets worse and worse. It takes hours at the end because you're so slow and thick. I do have to say before we go any further that Paula is such an extraordinarily funny performer in her own
Yes.
right. And obviously, if you see AP Bio or any of the other things that she's now done, so her web series Hudson Valley Ballers with another one of our fave SNL writers,
Anderson.
James Anderson. She's so funny in this movie, and it's such a delight to all of us because everybody at SNL has always known that Paula is the funniest person in the room. So it's really fun.
That's real sweet,
to
Anna.
think of America getting to
I
finally
can't
see
look
that
at
as
you.
well.
That's real sweet. I'm
I'll
uncomfortable
put
taking
my back
things
to you
in.
later, and we'll hug.
Just gonna look at this front row.
I'll
of these
call
people.
you from my car on your car, and we'll hug.
Oh, what has it been like the last what, like 5-6 years where you've been able to really come out as a performer?
Well, I was only that before I got the job at SNL, and then they hire a lot of actors that also write, and they saw me performing something that I wrote when they were interested in having me come to be a writer, and I even said to them, well, I'm not a writer, even though I'd written my whole life, but they were like, well, you'll learn, because their writers there are so enmeshed with performers.
It's a very equal
you're
playing field
writing
there.
literally, unlike any other show or anything, movies or anything. You're in with
Same
the
bullpen.
actors, and you're just all jamming together. So everyone is part of it together. So
It's
it's
workshopping material a lot of the time rather than just sitting down and writing it. You're seeing
That's a
what it
good
can
way of
do on
putting
its
it.
feet and
Yes,
if it's
yeah,
funny in
yes.
itself. Yeah.
And so all I had done my whole life was theater, and I was an actor when I was young. And then when I got out of college, got my degree in it, and, was living in Orlando, and I was like doing things like, commercials, and I was singing at Disney and had all these sort of after college
singing at
jobs.
Disney?
I did. I sang and did comedy at Pleasure Island in Orlando.
Is that part of the Hustler Club?
It's not part of the hustle. I should have got a
What
discount.
you get with the punch card there?
Yeah. But at that time, when I got that job, I came and they were like, put your actor hat away, put that away, because this is not that opportunity. Like, this is not, they didn't want people with an agenda to come in and go like, oh, I'm going to be a writer for now, and then I can't wait to, and I was also such a good girl and like good student. And when I got hired for that, I was so honored that I was just like, I'll do it however you want, so I would have never been one of those All About Eve people that was like in the shadows trying to get someone else's job ever in my life.
So what if I come out in this sketch at the 3-minute mark?
Yeah, I'm thinking. But no, I was always very, very aware of that. And what's fun now is I was like born at 50, and I always played matrons. Even when I was 12 years old, I was Mother Superior in Sound of Music. And so I always played an older woman. So now that I'm 56, I'm like, now I can play an older woman and things, and it's really fun. I don't have to
Literally
color
like
my hair.
overnight star at 56, Paula Pell. It's so
Well.
fantastic to watch.
Thanks.
Like with AP
I didn't mean to
I
out
mean,
your age.
I just turned 56.
happy birthday.
Come on, guys.
Double nickels plus one, guys.
A lot's happening in your body. It's not easy.
In a lot of ways, I think you're kind of the secret weapon of AP Bio. I mean, it's an incredibly funny cast. I love everybody that's on it.
Oh, they're
But
all so
every
funny.
time you are able, and I think I was talking with Glenn Howerton about this, and he was saying that when he first started on the show, he was worried that their writing for you was too broad. But then when he saw you do it, he was like, "Paula can do anything.
can do anything."
We
That's
can
real
make
sweet.
it. We can make it as broad as possible."
Well, Glenn and I laughed so hard because his character is so acerbic and funny and dead-eyed and just and we have this thing where we had a scene because it's always written so hilariously, and Mike O'Brien just created crazy, hilarious characters. But they're very grounded in a weird, crazy way. I don't know how to describe that except that it feels real. Like you go, I know that lady in school. Like I remember that lady. But there's a scene where, because I'd always greet him with so much like, oh, how's it, how you doing today, cutie pots? And he comes in and he's so foul. And we had this one scene where he's just like, I'm gonna kill you. And he just kept under his breath saying that he is gonna kill me. And I kept going, oh, you're not, if I kill you first, you're gonna. And we just kept going, and we got laughing so hard because it's just when someone is being joyful to a person that is foul, it's really fun.
a great weapon.
Lauren isn't foul, but I used to love to get in Lauren's force field. It was one of my favorite. I still do it. I mean, he and I are friends now, so I can like go and actually sit on him, and it isn't as strange as it was when I was younger. But because he had such a force field around him of just, he's Canadian, and he just has a very gentlemanly sort of thing around him. And I would just come over, and he was our boss, and he was Lorne Michaels, and created like a show that I used to audio record when I was young, and
And he does have a Canadian force field. He's very polite man.
And so I used to love to. They used to say I was like his nanny or his kindergarten teacher, because I used to just love to come over and just like go, you need a hug. What you need is some physical contact, and I would just like hold him and sing to him.
How would he respond to that?
He
really
laughs.
hard.
Yeah.
He'd laugh
I
really
meet him with a equivalently Canadian force field. It's very uncomfortable. It's kind of like static. It's like somebody coming up and brushing against you on a rug in the winter, and then just awkward static.
And then
moving
sticking
away.
it to your
Yeah,
hair.
just everybody walks away with their skirt slightly too high.
Anna, one of the things that I loved about the film and about your character, and I don't want to spoil anything, but
It's okay. It's just a movie about ladies and drinking wine.
Okay, cool.
Nobody cares.
But I do think there is another area that is subverted, which is that your character loves work.
Yes.
And there isn't this idea that that work is bad and she has to pull
Yes.
away from it. And like work actually may relax her.
Yes.
And it's
Such a good message for women too.
It was. I'm so delighted that you recognize that, because certainly as we were working through it, and there was a lot of kind of conversation about what is this part, and what kind of finding our way in, and it was important to Amy that we kind of represented a number of established. That there's a little bit of every woman in all of those characters, and really our group, and I think women in general that I know. I mean, women are hustling out there. They're working really, really hard. And I think that we spend a lot of time saying, how do you balance your family? But I think that sometimes I wanted the point of view that you could meet a woman whose career was her life and felt completely fulfilling to her, and that the sacrifice that's always being asked of her is not necessarily something she wants to give up.
Well, that question too, like how do you balance family and work, is something that we really only ask of women. It's kind of cliche to even say that at this point, but one of the things that I've always felt was so weird about it is as soon as you're asked that, I'm not a woman, I've never been asked that really, but I imagine as soon as you're asked that, you suddenly question it. Like,
And the
you may not have even
implication,
been
I
thinking
can
about
say
it
as a
before.
working mother, the implication is generally how badly are you screwing over your kids?
Yeah.
Even though we're in a society where absolutely most women not only like to work, but have to work. Yeah. And so they obviously no one's saying to still our male counterparts, how badly are you screwing over your kids by being on the road all the time? And I think there's so much new research coming out about this, how there may be more shared income and there may be more shared kind of sense of shared household, but still so much of the work is coming down on women's shoulders, both professionally, to show that they're not falling apart because they had kids, and to run their households and buy all the birthday presents and remember their mother-in-law's, Mother's Day flowers and all of the above, and the family travel. That there's sort of just rising expectations. Not to mention, this is my last little beef on this with your mom, a lot of the standards for the perfect homemaker existed at a time when we weren't expected to be such perfect mothers either. I mean, even in the 70s, my mom opened the door at 3:30 and we went out and played. And I grew up in the inner city. Like we played, kick the can in the middle of traffic. And then we came back at 7:30. We didn't have babysitters.
We just leave on our bikes, and when it
Yeah.
got dark, we'd come
And
home.
now,
Street
like
lights,
the
come
idea
on,
that you
time
would
to
do
go
that
home.
with your
Mosquito
kids,
bites.
besides it
Those
not
were the
even being
days.
safe, like your kids are scheduled, everything is organized, you're making sure that they're in the most enriched programs. There's a lot of like extra work being attached to that. So it was important to me that some of that lightly, it's a comedy, be addressed. But she likes work. She likes her life as a corporate person.
One of the great joys of watching all these women in this movie who are all my dear friends, my tribe, watching them. I don't have children. I have 7 animals.
Yeah, but they
But
do,
my
a lot
house
of them
smells good.
and they do go in baby Bjorns.
Yes, we
Some of
carry them in baby
So they're
Bjorns. We have
Chihuahuas
2
and
little
baby
ones,
Bjorns.
and my girlfriend and I carry them around and really get that scratch itched of not having children because they're forever little babies. But watching these women, all of which have incredible children, like not only the most beautiful, hilarious, wonderful children, but watching them mother them and watching the humor in these children. Like these children are the new wave of all these, superstars. And so it's so cool to watch those children get to know each other because now we're getting together a lot more in a group, and they all go swimming, and then you'll just see the older ones. Maya's daughter and Tina's daughter are around the same age, and they're 15? No.
13. Yeah.
13.
Yeah.
And just to watch them sitting and sharing, looking at something on Instagram and laughing and doing videos of each other. And it's just so cool to see this whole new generation of people that are.
It's so moving. Said, by the way, like a true fairy godmother, because Paula, of course, is the one that they all worship. Tina asked, when Tina was previewing Mean Girls, this was super special to me. They were working on the musical for a very long time. It takes a long time to develop a musical. And Tina called and asked if my daughter at the time, who was 15, actually she was 14, and a friend would come and watch a rehearsal and give her feedback from the teen point of view, which was just such a cool, oh, wow, I was in the movie and now there's a musical and my kid's doing this thing. I wasn't invited. My daughter was invited. It was
How did your daughter respond to that?
Oh, she loved it. She
Anna's daughter is
in that way that she was like, I gave Tina some notes.
Yeah, that's what I wanted. I wanted the teenager who was like, yeah, sure, I'll do that.
Yeah, literally.
Very casually.
She and her friend Ruby
They're
were like, we
so
had some
brilliant
feedback.
and funny, those kids. I love her kids so much.
It was very cool, meta moment. And then we drove down to Washington, my family, to see it in previews, which was also out of town tryouts.
That's a great show if you haven't seen it.
If you haven't
live here.
seen it, yeah, we don't make any money by saying that
No.
either.
We have a question from Twitter. It's who in the cast is the most similar, different from their character in the movie?
Well, I would say, with exaggeration, Amy loves an itinerary.
Yeah.
She's very organized, and when we do take our trips, loves to, because we find it fun, does the laminated, organized little.
We welcome
file.
it in real life
Yeah, we
because
do.
none of us want to plan it. So when she says, I am sending you a document of what we're doing,
We're all
we were
delighted.
so excited.
We're like,
so
great,
it
how much
wasn't
do I-
like in the movie where we're like, not wanting to.
Plan is a good thing when you're on a trip.
Especially
I
when you got a
hate to
big
plan
I
trips.
agree. And then when there's a big group of you, and so she's similar that way. And Maya, of course, she does have a big tribe. She's got 4 kids and is a spectacular mother. So I think that's similar in some ways too.
Emily is similar in her character in the fact that a lot of times she'll be like, oh, y'all, I don't want to go on this trip, but I really want to go on this trip, y'all.
y'all.
And then it's like, let's go to a wine trip. And then it's like, oh, y'all, I don't want to talk about wine.
Yeah, she is.
She'll just really shut down, but be hilarious doing it, but also not want to miss a minute.
Yeah.
She's very much like that. And I think the moment at the beginning of the movie when I'm bonding with the driver from the airport
Could not
is
be more
definitely
like
me,
you.
where
That is
I'll
so
have
true to
a
her.
deep conversation with someone I don't know, and everyone else is like, we
Get out of
going?
the car.
And I'm like, I'm working on helping him with his mortgage. I'm going to help him. So,
Yes.
yeah.
We have a couple questions from the audience. Who has a question? Right here. Hi.
Hi. I was wondering if, both of you are very naturally very funny, and I was wondering if you both grew up in a sort of humor-oriented background family, or if humor is sort of something that you've personally discovered and developed to further your professional careers.
I grew up with 2 of the funniest human beings as parents and a sister they're so funny, and they're
super funny.
They're intentionally and unintentionally funny. I mean, my father is really truly brilliant comedic mind, and my mom is hilarious in her, I wrote a thing on SNL where Kate plays a woman named Deanie, and she's talking about the soaps. And that's my mom. And it's based on my mom because my mom will go, oh my God, did you see the story? Did you see it today? Because we taped the soaps and talked about it to each other. And oh my God, did you watch Young and Restless today? Oh my God. Big boobs and mustache. We're having that big fight, And then she does not know one character name. We've watched it for 35 years. And she'll go, redhead. Well, the bitch that took the thing at the winery. Well, you know that caught on fire. The other day, I get a text from her about Bold and the Beautiful, and she goes, "You know that baby's not dead." And I didn't know that it was about a soap. And I'm like, what baby's not dead? What baby's dead? Like, it was terrifying. But my sister's hilarious. My nieces and nephew are ungodly funny. So I grew up with a lot of older relatives that were very funny. So when we would write stuff, we had so many of those characters living in our heads, and so many things were based on those people, those real people, which I think is always the best way to write comedy, is who makes you laugh and make a character that's kind of like them. So you answer too.
I am blind
You
in my
answer.
left eye, so I wore an eye patch and played the violin till I was 7, which is to say I also played the violin. So I wore an eye patch and I played the violin till I was 7. So I developed my humor as a coping.
I'm glad
As
that
an
you went the
armor.
way of humor and not the way of villain.
I
in
could
a
have
movie
been
sometimes.
I could have been a you're right. I could
Bond
have
villain.
I could have been a psycho a serial killing violinist. Yeah. My dad's
Like a
funny.
Palma
My
character.
dad is very, very funny too.
Her
And my
parents are
mom's
very
a
dry
great
and funny,
audience.
yeah.
My brother and my mother will laugh. They will weep with laughter at anything stupid that I do, which was very helpful. Encouraging.
Yeah, big laughers, and you know,
to have
when
laughers in
you
your family.
when you're a comedy person, you definitely grew up doing shtick in front of your family and making them laugh, or friends,
Yeah.
and you know what you know, putting something weird. I used to draw eyes and put them inside my glasses. So my eyes were a lot, but then I would pretend I was sleeping, or I would just do so much shtick all the time and a lot of props.
Bits.
Just trying to get love, guys. It's people try to get it different ways.
Lots of
Some
different
people
ways.
use
Some
you know,
people do
boobs
hugs.
and
Some people make food.
yeah. Some people have
And
a
other
waist.
people color eyes
I
and
used
put
to
them
make
behind their
people laugh.
glasses.
Yeah.
One more question.
That's it. We killed them. Oh.
Hello. I'm alive.
This is like, I feel like we're in a Tony Robbins seminar.
Yeah,
You
kind
just
of.
ran to the front. We're gonna help improve your life.
We're going to
Great.
do a TED
Let's
Talk.
do it.
I love that. I need it. Thank you both for being here today. You guys have been such inspirations to me as women in comedy. It's great to talk to you. My question is if you could talk a little bit more about your audition process for SNL, if you remember the bits that you did in your
do.
audition, or the sketch that kind of acted as your audition as a writer.
Yeah. I did a sketch comedy show called, I think it was called Chucklehead. And it was some really hilarious people from Orlando that were part of a group together. And they were an improv group. And I didn't really do improv very much, but they would do a sketch comedy night every so often. And I would go, because I had performed with them at Disney. So I would go and do characters. So I did this choir director lady. I did different characters for that sketch comedy. And that got, sold around, they were trying to sell it around, and it landed at SNL. And that's when they called me and said, we want to meet you. And I didn't know what it was. I thought it was an audition, but then they were like, it's not an audition. And so I was very confused, and I flew up to meet Lauren in New York here, shitting my pants.
Yep.
And terrified, and just sat down with him, and it was in '95, and he said, we've basically kind of cleaned the house out, and we're starting over, and we're looking for one more woman writer, and that's how it all started. And I had 5 days. I gave my mom and dad my dogs and cats. I had a house that I rented in Orlando. I quit my job, everything all together, and came up here and never looked back after that. It was
Your
an
entire
amazing
life
thing.
changed.
Yeah.
Where did you live?
When I first was
Yeah.
here, I always lived on the Upper West Side. I lived on 80th, 83rd, 96th, always up there. I had dogs a lot, so I always liked being near the park or near somewhere that I could walk around. That wasn't cool for downtown.
How
I lived
long?
downtown.
How long
I
was
was
your
very
tenure as
cool.
a writer? And I know you still kind of go back.
I
and
was
write
there
every now and
almost
then,
20
right?
years. The last couple
As a
years.
full-time writer.
Yeah. The last 3 I was doing, I sort of whittled it down to 12 shows a year, because we do, 20?
Yeah.
And so I whittled it down to where I would only do half the year, because I was starting to write movies too and rewrite movies. And I wanted to be able to transition into that. But I was also, you work that show and it's amazing and incredible, but it works your adrenal burnout and it's the stress of live TV is really I know people have far more stressful jobs, believe me, in this world, but live TV in terms of entertainment jobs is one of the scariest like stress things,
Yeah.
even if you're having fun, because
Sort of dog years.
in any moment it comes on, and if something's screwed up, you can't go back and go, let's do that again and get a better take.
What-
You're screwed.
What was scarier though, live TV or leaving after 20 years and figuring out what the next step was?
You know, I was mainly scared because I had a role there. I was kind of a caretaker, and I was always the one guiding other people. And I was really scared when I left because I was really, for the first time in my life, trying to guide myself, where I was trying to go, let's make, what do you want to do? How do you want to do this? But I always wanted to leave because of something. I always feel like when you leave because something is pulling you away, for me, it always made me feel less guilty about leaving. Because they don't want you to leave. I mean, Lorne keeps people there very long when he enjoys being with them. He's the most loyal person I've ever worked for in my life. And so it's very hard to leave because it's family and it's a routine and it's always going to be there. It just never, it feels so safe. And yet it's very racking to your nervous system.
What about you, Anna? How many seasons did you end up doing?
I was there for 6.
6.
And I was pregnant with my daughter, Frances. My last season, no one had ever been pregnant on the show before, and in its own adrenal way. And I mean, obviously, Lauren's such a loyal and loving boss in that way. In retrospect, it didn't matter, but it had never been done before. And it wasn't even a world in which I could imagine mothering. It seemed so abstract. There weren't any women who had babies there. It just didn't seem like possible.
Well, there's so
in
much
retrospect,
late
I mean,
night,
everybody
all-nighters.
Yeah, you're up all night, and he was really sweet about it. He was like, "Please stay. You don't have to write anymore." But I also couldn't imagine forfeiting that, and I couldn't imagine not being responsible for my own content. Like, you kind of have to bring your best self to the table every week. Even I was always taken care of at the show by excellent writers like Paula, but I just felt like I had to be responsible, and
You'd at the very least have been working with them to get that
I just
content,
couldn't figure it out, and it is so adrenal. And if you do have a week that you've gone bananas and you've spent an entire week, I remember thinking I was offered. I was very interested in. I had been a voice major. That's how I started as a singer at Northwestern, and that's how I found comedy. I found the rabbit hole through Chicago, and I went down that comedy rabbit hole. And I knew when I got back at my last couple of seasons on SNL that I kind of wanted to get back to theater and to singing, and so I was offered a play at Manhattan Theater Club here in New York, and I really liked it, and I thought maybe I could do that and figure that out with mothering. It's consistent. I just didn't know, and I was trying to imagine like a week where you invest your whole heart and soul, and then your sketch gets cut or whatever. And then I was trying to imagine what if my baby had an earache in the middle of all that, and how would I feel about that? And so that was my decision. I mean, there were moments at which I regretted it. A lot of really wonderful things happened with the sort of female community at the show after I left. It was kind of emerging as I left, and I had many moments where I felt huge FOMO. I didn't have any friends in New York except for women on the show and people on the show.
It kind of
It
is
was a
never the
strange
perfect
free
time to
fall.
leave, but once you do it, we were saying the other night that when you listen to the theme music of Saturday Night Live starting at the beginning of that show, and
If
you hear
you've
those
worked there.
horns and that theme, like if you're at home and you've worked there, you have an immediate visceral reaction to it. Because
and
that's
it's
the period
IBS.
of time that you are
Irritable bowel syndrome.
scrambling.
No, your stomach just
Because
grabs.
you do the dress rehearsal at 8 with a full audience, they leave, and then you're deciding what to cut out of that half-hour chunk, out of that hour and a half, whatever. And so everyone finds out, we all go in and decide that. You find out what's gotten cut, and then it's like, put a new ending on this, change that one joke, tell them this, tell them that. And it's just terror because
Feverishly
you're running
rewriting.
like through the, trying to get past all these people that are coming in as audience members. And so whenever I listen to that music, I get abdominally very tense.
It's a real intense workplace, and it's hard. Anyway, the answer is I probably could have figured it out now that I look back at it, but in that particular moment, I think my husband and I were just like, I don't think we can do this. And so I left. I also felt like I wanted to leave before my work I didn't want my work to be crappy, And So I
I
felt
want to like find a place where you could be a little lazy there. And
no, it's
yeah.
not a place I would have enjoyed being lazy. It's not that kind of workplace. There's other jobs where you're like,
Kinda
great,
in it
write
or
my
you're
character
not,
4 jokes. I'll show up on Tuesday. I'm happy to leave. That it's just not one of those places. You want to be a part of it. You want to be on the treadmill.
Well, thank God all of you met there and
I
you came
know.
together and made this wonderful movie.
Can't
And
believe
hopefully it's the first of many movies that you make together. I would like to see this team become.
Hey,
like
let's
a-
franchise the hell out of this.
Yeah.
let's do Wine Country 2. This could be
Oktoberfest,
a
that's what I'm
version of
voting.
Grown
This is the new Medea.
I want October.
Wine Country Halloween. I love Medea movies. I watch them all
I
the
do.
time.
I
laugh
love
my
them
ass
too. Let's dream big. Let's be a Fast and Furious franchise.
Family.
What about
Family.
the superheroes?
Come on,
They
guys.
make a lot.
Yeah,
Like
the super.
Ash.
They do great.
Wine Country is
Little
coming on
Wine Country
Netflix this weekend, right?
It opens in some theaters today, in select theaters, May 8th.
Yes.
I don't know which theaters.
And then it hits Netflix.
And then Netflix
Yes,
May 10th.
Netflix.
May 10th.
And it's
Which
called
is Friday.
Wine
And it's called
Country.
And it's about women who go to this area. This
And you know
area
what?
of country.
This is the
Friendship
cast.
is a trip.
Friendship.
Gasteyer Paula Pell, everybody.
Thanks,
Let's hear
guys.
it.
Thank you.